We're aware of these plastic £5 notes that have started circulating recently, and if you there are some that are issued by the Royal Bank of Scotland, and if you look at that, you'll see the picture of a woman, and that woman is a lady called Nan Shepherd, who died in 1977. She was an Aberdonian, and she was, well, a teacher, but is remembered most of all as a writer, as a novelist, but also someone who, she was had a great love of the Cairngorms, and she wrote a beautiful reflection on these mountains. And in one of her books, she says this: light in Scotland has a quality I have not met elsewhere. It is luminous without being fierce, penetrating to immense distances with an effortless intensity. Well, light in Scotland has a special quality I have not met elsewhere. I think that's true. And perhaps we can apply it to what we call the light of faith, which is, in a sense, the subject of this Sunday. That light, too, has a quality that we do not meet elsewhere. Pope Francis's first encyclical, which was really almost a joint encyclical with Pope Benedict, was called The Light of Faith. And in early Christianity, baptism, the sacrament of baptism, was called the sacrament of illumination or enlightenment, and that's why to this day the symbol of the candle is important. The early Christians had a vivid sense of having passed, thanks to faith, thanks to baptism, from darkness into light. We heard an echo of that in the letter, the reading from St. Paul that we had. You are children of light. You have put away the works of darkness, the actions and activities that are dead ends, that lead nowhere, and you have come into the light, and we should walk in the light. It would be good if we could have that sense again. And now I can speak as a convert, I mean many years ago, but a convert to the Catholic faith. And I hope those who are cradled Catholics will forgive me saying, I think often cradled Catholics underestimate the light that they have. I mean, we all feel in our lives there are areas of obscurity, and, we don't know what we're doing. We don't always know whether we're doing the right thing in the right way, and so forth. But we have been illumined in a way. We carry a light. We know, for example, that the Lord is our shepherd. We know that all manner of things shall be well. We know there is a horizon of hope in our life, that there is something more than just final extinction ahead of us. We have a light. And I suppose this Sunday we are encouraged to rekindle it. A good definition of faith, description of it: faith is seeing with the eyes of Jesus. We have to, as it were, put on the eyes of Christ and see the world, see God, see one another, see our lives as he sees them. That's a lifelong process that's aided by prayer, by reading the Gospels, by the sacraments and so forth, that our eyes become more and more the eyes of Christ. Your word is a lamp for my steps and a light for my path, says the psalm. Now, faith is not a floodlight. Suddenly, a blinding light goes on. But it's more like, I think I've used this image before, it's perhaps more like, well, the headlights of a car, or a lamp in front of a bicycle, on a bicycle. It's enough to see the next few yards. We know perhaps the famous words from the hymn, the poem of John Henry Newman, "Lead, kindly light. I do not ask to see the distant scene, one step enough for me." Faith gives us always that light, enough light to make the next step. So Pope Francis wrote, "Faith is not a light which scatters all our darkness, but a lamp, a torch, you might say, which guides our steps in the night of suffering for the journey. Which guides our steps in the night and is sufficient for the journey. To those who suffer, God does not provide arguments that explain everything. Rather, his response is that of an accompanying presence, a goodness which touches every story of suffering and opens up a ray of light. Lead, kindly light, the light in Scotland, luminous without being fierce. Now, the light of faith may make great demands on us, but of itself, it's not a fierce light. It's a gentle light. It's a kindly light. There was a famous poem of the early Christians, an evening prayer that was used when in the evening in the house you lit the lamps. And the first words in Greek were phos, which is light, phos, hilaron. Hilaron. Now, hilaron is the word from which we get our word hilarity or hilarious. Now, it's not quite saying faith is a hilarious light, though, I think if we do have faith, we can be more cheerful. Faith, hilaron means cheerful, it means joyful, it means something or somebody that's always there, ready to help you. Maybe that's a good image of faith. This light, which we have received, is there, ready to help us in the dark moments of our life. Faith, it has been said, is offering solace, comfort to one another until deliverance arrives. We know deliverance will arrive, and because of that, we can offer solace, we can support, we can accompany one another. Christ rises at the time of the full moon, the first full moon after the vernal equinox. That was the time when the Passover was kept. That is why we keep Easter. That's why it changes every year, the date. Christ rose at the time of the full moon. And perhaps we can think of faith as a kind of moonlight. If we are without faith, we may have a few stars in the sky, please God, but these can easily be covered by the clouds. They can be lost by other lights, the lights of a city, dim the lights of the sky. Those in heaven are, as it were, bathed in sunlight. They see God face to face. We are in the middle. We are on this journey, and we have the light of the moon to guide us. And that is enough. It's sufficient for the journey. So, I think too, last thought, that faith, hope, this light will come into its own in our own lives when we come to die. That's when this light will shine. This is when the darkness of death closes in on us or closes in on those we love. These are very dark moments. And it's in those dark moments that the light of faith, that candlelight, that moonlight, that torchlight, that perhaps morning star can shine out that more brightly. So may I call forth now Lawrence and Colin with their sponsors, and we pray for them that the light of Christ may rise on them.